Vice President Harris is in Iowa today for a panel on women's reproductive rights.
Her visit comes as a federal judge in Texas is weighing blocking access to an FDA-approved abortion pill commonly used here in the U.S. It also coincides with the new push from Iowa Republicans to change the state's abortion laws. Leslie Sanchez and Joel Payne join us now. Leslie is a CBS News political analyst, and Joel is a CBS News political contributor, Democratic strategist, and chief communications officer for MoveOn. So good to see both of you. Leslie, let's start with you. We've seen several Republicans in my home state of Iowa in recent days talking about this issue. How important is the reproductive rights issue as a factor in politics in the Hawkeye state?
Well, it's a state that, as you know, passed the fetal heartbeat bill back in 2018, which has been held up in the courts. And certainly Governor Reynolds has been pushing to lift that injunction. We are waiting for the Iowa Supreme Court to make a decision on that. But overwhelmingly, it is for Republican voters, it was a very critical issue in terms of the sanctity of life and starting to see those measures get inroads on the state level, which is fundamentally where the party has restructured. I think right now, with that in the headlines, certainly looking at the Texas decision that's coming down, you have a lot of activists, the pro-life movement, who are watching the actions of the governor, and certainly other leaders, Republicans, are getting pressure on the state level to ensure that those efforts remain and trying to protect the sanctity of life.
Well, Joel, the vice president has traveled the country discussing Democrats' fight for women's reproductive rights since the Supreme Court's overturning of Roe versus Wade. What are you expecting to hear from her today?
Elaine, I think she is going to continue to give a megaphone to those millions of American women who feel under attack because they feel like their reproductive rights are under attack. And, you know, it's interesting. This is a space that Hillary Clinton in the past, other, women, particularly women Democratic leaders, have filled in the past as kind of carrying the mantle, so to speak, on fighting for abortion rights. I think this is a really interesting place for Vice President Harris to step in. As you mentioned, she has been really canvassing the country, talking about this. And you can imagine as 2024 ramps up, that she's going to be talking about this a lot more, particularly in a state like Iowa that has the intrinsic value of being one of the early primary states that kind of defines the political calendar and a lot of the political conversation. I think this means a lot. I think it also lays out some battle lines on abortion rights for 2024. It's pretty clear that the president and that his administration is going to use Vice President Harris as a real asset in making that case.
Leslie, I want to bring you into this conversation because Joel's making some really important points about Iowa and how much of an outsized political influence it had previously in the primary process. Republicans, I like Iowa, so, I'm biased, but Republicans in Iowa are still going to make a major decision about that state, about the candidate that they put forward in that state. And at the same time, this is happening with state abortion laws underway. There's shifts from it previously being a purple state to now becoming more of a red state. What makes the fight in Iowa different for Republicans and for the Biden administration than other states?
I think you really alluded to it there. When you talk about the importance of Iowa, just politically, Democrats have moved it and sidelined it behind South Carolina. So it's interesting that now that is a state that was not getting a lot of love earlier is getting a lot of focus right now. With respect to reproductive rights, Iowa's an interesting case because if you go back to the midterms, a little bit over half of the individuals, the voters who were surveyed right around the midterms, thought that it was a critical issue. So it would be a fool's errand to discount the power and the impact this is going to have on women voters and how they come out and divide. You were also right that for the last two election cycles, Republicans have done well with Donald Trump, and Barack Obama did extremely well in this state. So right now, big, strong shades of red. But an issue like reproductive rights, it's an interesting area because voters who are pro-life and want to see the heartbeat, the fetal heartbeat bill, move through the state and want to see those measures to protect life, are going to be watching very critically on how the leaders are responding. But other women who are really conflicted, and I would say Republican women who are conflicted, want to be very careful how this issue is talked about. So there isn't a broad brushstroke. I mean, people want to have their individual rights and their individual viewpoints respected and part of that dialogue. So it is a complicated thing. And I do think strategically for the Democrats, it's a very bold move to put the vice president there. And it could have some traction that Republicans need to be mindful of.
Okay, so Joel, what about that? You know, President Biden still hasn't visited Iowa despite teasing a run for re-election. Taking a step back just a bit here and understanding what we saw from the Democratic National Committee, right, and Iowa's place when it comes to that process now of choosing a Democratic primary candidate. Is this an attempt, you think, to have Vice President Harris there? Is this an attempt perhaps to tee up President Biden's 2024 campaign?
I think the time and the calendar we're at, it's hard to not look at everything through the lens of 2024, Elaine. We'll remember those times when we were in the studio together, we were talking about all the returns in cycles past. So it's hard not to think about that. But what I would say is this about President Biden. One, I think he's probably going to try to contest Iowa, mostly because he needs to keep Republicans honest in that state. It's a state that in the recent past, Democrats have been competitive in. And while it certainly has trended red, it's a state that Democrats, again, need to at least put up a fight in. So I think it makes sense having a high-level surrogate like Vice President Harris there. I think you'll see a lot more high-level Democratic surrogates there. One other thing really quickly, Vice President Harris obviously and famously has struggled to find footing. That is no secret. That has been a lot of chatter, particularly inside the Beltway. I think what is hopeful to a lot of Democrats is that this is a place where she's really found her voice on protecting reproductive rights. And I think, by the way, it helps President Biden to have a strong vice president and Vice President Harris who can run with him. So it gives purpose and verve and meaning to this fight, but it also strengthens his key surrogate going into 2024.
All right, Leslie Sanchez, Joel Payne, the campaign is afoot. Thank you both very much. We appreciate it.